Welcome to Skinomics 2, and I have for you an experimental video which links the basic of economics to the Counter-Strike skin market. This video assumes that you know nothing about economics, and it is just a simple introduction what economics is using analogies from Counter-Strike. I provide weekly updates to the Counter-Strike skin market. Please have a look at that as well if you are new here. Alright, so what is economics? You may have heard of supply and demand, but that is only part of it. Economics is actually the study of how people allocate scarce resources for production, distribution, and consumption, both individually and collectively. To put it simply, economics is about figuring how people and groups make the best use of what they have to get what they want. There are two branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. We will focus on microeconomics for the most of the video, but I will touch on macroeconomics later as well. Microeconomics is the branch of economics which studies how individuals make decisions in response to the market, and how their decisions change the market. The concept of supply and demand is part of this branch. This is the most important area for understanding the basics of the Counter-Strike skin market. Starting off, almost everyone likes the dragon law, right? This is demand. When more people want something, there is more demand. However, the problem is that people have infinite demand, but there is limited supply of everything. Bear with me here. What I am showing you now is the supply and demand graph. Where the supply meets demand, this is called the equilibrium, and the market price falls here. For example, taking the butterfly knife fade. If 5 people traded one today for an average price of $3,800 a piece, the graph would look like this. There are people that are willing to pay more than the equilibrium, and there are also people that are willing to sell for less than the equilibrium. These people will all trade at the equilibrium due to the market. But because there is a benefit for these people, we call that surplus. In real life, this is called the producer and consumer surplus. However, for the purpose of Counter-Strike, we will call this buyer and seller surplus. What I am showing you is that for someone that is willing to buy a fade for $4,000, their buyer surplus will be $200 at the market price of $3,800. Now, let's use the Paris stickers as an example. Less and less people want the Paris stickers over time, as the news came out that the Copenhagen stickers are similar but better looking than the ones in Paris. Therefore, there is less demand. We represent this on the graph by shifting the entire demand line to the left. As you can see, the equilibrium point is now lower, and the price which it reflects on the left axis is also lower. The same principle can also be applied to supply. For example, let's take the newest kilowatt case. As more cases drop, the supply will trend higher. We represent this by shifting the supply line to the right, which will also result in a lower price. This is also explained by the horizontal axis, which represents the quantity of an item. As there are more of something, the price is generally lower for the same level of demand due to increased supply. The reverse is also true for the two examples that I just listed. When we have more demand of something, for example, when more people want the Doppler skins after the release of Counter-Strike 2 which made the skins look better, the prices shot up as we moved the demand line to the right. And using Poison Frog stickers as an example, as the supply of the stickers dwindled over time, which is represented by the supply moving to the left, their prices skyrocketed as well. Alright, I hope that was intuitive, although feel free to pause to ask any questions in the comment section. Anyways, but what does this mean for skin traders and investors? Well, it means that you should buy items that will have a higher demand and lower supply in the future. Let's start with lower supply as it is easier. Maps and other collection skins are limited in quantity. Their supply cannot go up after the collection is pulled out of the game. Therefore, as skins get pulled out of circulation by either people who no longer play the game or even people who are banned, their prices will naturally move up. However, higher demand is a bit more complicated. How do you know what will have more demand in the future? Well, the simple answer is that you can only guess, but you can make educated guesses. People will have demand for things that are good looking. For example, print stream skins over the longer term has shot up in price because people clearly like its pearlescent white finish. Moving on now, I want to talk about an economic concept called elasticity. How elastic demand and supply is will affect how much skin prices change when supply or demand changes. The less elastic demand is, the more price is going to change when supply changes. For example, The price of the golden arabesque barely moved when it was announced that Dust 2 is moving back into the competitive map pool, which meant more supply, as people like the skin no matter the supply. In another example, if supply cannot move, for example in the case of Cattlewit's 2014 stickers, it is described as supply inelastic. Then, the more demand there is, the more expensive the items are. This contrasts from supply elastic items. In the cases of items that can be obtained, for example via opening cases, then when there is more demand, people will open more cases for the items to keep prices stable. Alright, one last concept I want to explain under microeconomics. I want to introduce the concept of deadweight loss, specifically in the context of transaction fees. Let's say I want to buy a neo-noir op, and the max I am willing to pay is $30, and someone I do not know happens to be happy to sell it to me for $30. In a perfect world, we would have a deal. However, in the context of real life, as well as for Counter-Strike skins, we would not. This is because there is transaction costs. For the seller to be able to get his $30, he will need to sell it for $34.5 on the Steam market, as Steam charges a 15% transaction fee. If he sold for $30, he would only get $26.09 in return. Using the graph, this means that this section is the deadweight loss because people who are willing to pay $30 will still not be able to buy the skin given the transaction costs. The deadweight loss represents a loss for both the seller and the buyer, but it allows Valve to take their cut. In real life, tax is the most common example of this. However, in both real life and for Counter-Strike, some moderate amounts of deadweight loss is necessary. In real life, countries need to build roads and keep public facilities open, and for Counter-Strike, Valve needs to make money to keep the game running. The reason why I wanted to touch on this concept is to explain the presence of third-party marketplaces. Buff, for example, charges 2.5% rather than the 15% which Steam charges, and therefore, on Buff, the price is typically lower than Steam, as both buyers and sellers can compromise much less by having a much smaller deadweight loss. The seller would only have to sell at $30.8 rather than the $34.5 to get his $30 in this case. Alright, this is the basic of microeconomics. If I keep going, I can go on for another 10 hours. You can plot the implications of foreign trade, tariff, and much more using the graphs. But much of this will have minimal bearing on Counter-Strike, so I will stop here. Now, onto macroeconomics. Macroeconomics has limited application to the Counter-Strike skin market. In simple terms, macroeconomics is the study of an economy as a whole. Government spending, foreign trade policy are all part of this branch of economics. You may have heard of communism, which is when the government controls all the resources and coordinate it to each individual in the economy. You may have also heard of capitalism, which is when market determines how it wants resources to be allocated. These are both economic systems under the study of macroeconomics. For the Counter-Strike market, I think we do have a bit of government intervention in the existence of weekly drops. These produce cases which push the economy forward. Cases can be both sold or opened, which is sort of like plants which grow on the ground in real life. However, the difference is that weekly drops are equally allocated to each market participant or player. Valve's policies, which are akin to government policies, play a huge role in an economy. If Valve decides to drop 100 cases per week to each player, then the cases will be next to worthless. In turn, skins will also experience a massive drop in value. This is just like if government would print $100 trillion next week, then your money would all be worthless. However, the difference is that items you have in real life would still have some value, like your smartphone. But in the case of Counter-Strike, skins have no inherent value. So you could say Valve is even more powerful to the skin market than what the government is to the real economy of a nation. This is why Valve is often very slow to change anything significant in the game, as they do not wish to wreck the ecosystem they have built. Now, that is the end of the video, which was a very brief rundown of some simple economic concepts. Feel free to ask any questions you have, and if you want to see more like this, please do let me know down in the comment section. I am planning to make a similar video but on finance. Anyways, happy trading and see you in the next one. Bye. PS, don't forget to join my Discord server and have a look at my Instagram and Twitter as well. Thank you very much.